The New York State Department of Transportation presents the DOT POD.
And welcome into the DOT POD. I'm Josh Heller.
And I'm Anya Cardos.
And we are delighted to have you joining us.
You know, Josh, there's a saying, teamwork makes the dream work. And
I tell my son that, yeah.
You tell him that?
I do
tell my
son
kids
that, yeah.
too, especially when we're cleaning up the house.
Well.
That's right. Well, today we're talking about a partnership between the New York State Department of Transportation and the City of Rochester that turned a longtime dream of a public skate park into a reality.
It's called the Roc City Skatepark, and it was built on land adjacent to the DOT's iconic Frederick Douglass Susan B Memorial Bridge, which crosses the Genesee River, which if you've ever seen any pictures of the skyline in Rochester, you've seen that bridge for sure, and that's exactly where it takes place.
We're going to hear from a city official who had a major hand in this project, as well as a Rochester skating legend who spearheaded this initial effort in just a moment. But first, we'd like to introduce you to Tom Finch and Jeremy Button, both with DOT's Office of Right-of-Way, to talk about how this partnership between DOT and the City of Rochester turned this dream into a reality. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Making the trek from Rochester to our studio. And so first off, let's talk a little bit about what you guys do on a regular basis, right? About the Office of Right-of-Way and the property. You know, what is it that you guys normally do on a day-to-day basis? We'll get specifically into the skate park and this project, but just overall for those listening, what is it that you guys are responsible and that ultimately you do?
Well, we're a small group within the New York State DOT, 165 people statewide out of 8,000, and most folks were very specialized. We used to be called the real estate group, and so a lot of what we're dealing with are real estate issues, but they renamed us right-of-way because we do way more than just real estate. So our primary function on the capital side of the program is to acquire the right-of-way that we need to build highways and bridges. So we have an acquisition unit, acquisition and relocation. So we acquire right-of-way. If we have to acquire structures, then we provide relocation services to get people and businesses into new housing or new businesses. So that's a big part of what we do. In support of that effort, we have an appraisal unit because if we are going to acquire property, we have to pay people market value and make them whole. And so we have a unit that provides the valuations, either through staff appraisers, our own, or using consultants. So that's the second group that we have. We also have our program management group, which handles the overall flow of our work and how it coordinates with the other groups providing capital projects, design, traffic. And we also provide oversight on federally aided local highway projects. So a lot of money flows from the FHWA to the locals for them to do their projects. And when they have to acquire right-of-way, we provide that oversight, guidance, assistance, and sometimes we actually do that work for them. So that's our first three groups that kind of work on the capital side of the program. But then we have a non-capital side, property management. And that's where we are, that group, their mission is to dispose of excess right-of-way that we no longer need on terms beneficial to the people of the state. And in some cases, the land isn't excess to our needs, but it can accommodate a secondary use. The primary use being transportation, but something else could be done on it on a temporary basis. And we issue permits for use of state-owned property, U&O permits. And that's our property management unit. That's the unit Jeremy heads up. And that's kind of the genesis for this skate park, because that is right-of-way that the primary use is a bridge. The secondary use that can be accommodated is the skate park.
Well, let's get into that in just a second, your connection to the Office of Right-of-Way's connection to the skate park. But first, can you give us, Jeremy, a description of what this looks like and where it's located, its unique location?
I mean, it's gorgeous. It's right down. It's a very kind of a historical area for the city. There actually used to be a subway that ran through there, and there's tunnels nearby where I think some of that still exists. But like Dinosaur Junior, that's a band I like. Dinosaur Barbecue is right there, and there's one of those in Syracuse too. But I think we were the second one. But so just a short walk from there is Blue Cross Arena, where we
home of the Rochester Americans.
That's
the
right.
American Hockey League. I used to
There
go
you
there
go.
quite a bit back in my previous broadcasting life. Lovely area.
Yeah, so there's lots to do right around that area. It's beautiful with the river at night.
And there seems to be a pretty, and not necessarily recently, but over the past 10, 15, 20 years, a lot of effort towards revitalizing those downtown areas, especially along the river, to make downtown Rochester a destination people want to live and work and move to.
Which segues to the Rock the
Right.
River
Right,
initiative.
that's
Yeah.
the Roc the River, and I think it was 2018 that about $50 million from the state was freed up to invest into some of these signature projects that form the Roc the River, where they're revitalizing the waterfront, downtown, and the skate park is part of the overall Roc the River effort in one of the signature projects.
This is along the Genesee River.
This is along the Genesee.
And we should point out, ROC is ROC for Rochester. I get it.
Correct.
It's a play on words. That's
nickname
clever. I
for
like it.
Rochester. Well, let's go into how this all came about. The city approaches you, your office, and says, hey, we want to build a skate park, and could we use that land next to the bridge? Is that how it happened?
Yes, but it goes back even farther. It goes back to the days when I used to do Jeremy's job. I was the property manager about 2008, I believe, shortly after the new bridge was built. And the city had, for some time, folks in the city wanted to do a skate park, wanted to give something for the kids to do. And one of the problems inside a city is, where do you find the space to do something that's going to work? So back in 2008, they said, under the bridge, look at all this area under the bridge. It provides this neat urban environment. You've got some of it's, a roof, the roadway, the approaches to the bridge, for, shade and protection from the rain. And then there's open areas in between the ramps. And they said, this would be a great location. So they just came to us, as often starts out, just pitching an idea. What would we think of that? And we have a mechanism when we get these ideas or proposals, we start talking to the various groups within our region to see, would this be feasible? And this particular bridge carries Interstate 490 over the Genesee River, so it's part of the interstate system. So we knew that FHWA would have to approve anything we did. But the initial conversations that we had with the region felt, yeah, this probably could be done. So with that in mind, they kind of had their idea of where they wanted to do it, and then they needed to start finding the money. And that didn't happen until 2016, 17,
17-ish, yeah.
when they really came to us and said, we've got money. I think New York State, maybe kicked in $1 million. They got money. They raised money. I think the City of Rochester put in some money. The Tony Hawk's Foundation put in some money. And they got maybe $3 million or so in the bank, hired the consultants, and they started to work with us.
So when it comes to, okay, we know what we want to do, right? We want to have a skate park here. We know where we want to have it. Now we have money to do it. Now comes the idea of feasibly designing this, and that has to be something that, it has to be on both sides, right? It can't just be them saying, well, this is what we're going to do. It has to be, engineers on both sides kind of making sure that it, A, does do what they want it to do, but B, also is feasible from, a DOT standpoint.
Right, because you have to have access to the bridge. That's what this extra space is for maintenance or
right. That was a huge part. It goes back to what I said. This is right-of-way, transportation right-of-way with a primary purpose being a bridge and an interstate. The secondary use is a skate park. It has to be done in a way that we can still accomplish our primary mission. But we still have to do maintenance work. We have to inspect it. And that was a huge piece when we start working with the various groups within the region to say, can we do this? What are the terms and the conditions? Our bridge maintenance people and our structures group had a huge part in this, and particularly bridge maintenance. And we would attend, Jeremy, it was monthly meetings, right, with the city and with their engineers, their consultants, and they would have ideas and say, okay, we think we'll do this. And then we would bring that back, we being Jeremy, because that was, his primary responsibility to do this. He pulled it over the finish line. And Jeremy would have conversations on our side, and they might come back and say, well, we got to get a truck in there. So where do we drive it in? How do we get it to where we need it? How do we need headroom to lift the thing? We have all these needs, drainage.
Jeremy, can you talk about some of the design needs here and that delicate balance and those conversations that you were having? You knew in your own terms what was needed here because you were a skater when you were a kid.
Yeah. So, first of all, most of my job involves doing use and occupancy permits for sewer pipelines and stuff. It's really boring stuff to talk about.
What?
So I love so much being part of this project and having something that, I would have died for something like this when I was a kid. We had abandoned gas stations that we, ground on curbs and stuff. We never had anything this scope. So to be in these meetings talking about half pipes and bowls and all this other stuff, it was really fun. And some of the challenges that they had. First of all, it's not really flat under there. It's at one end. It's not as much room from the floor to the bridge, and they wanted to dig, but you can't dig too much because there's utilities in there. And, we need to find out where the utilities are. So they had to send, dig safe in and find all that stuff and figure out what they were working with as far as their height restrictions. There was a lot of stuff they had to contend with, like drainage. The things the downspouts that come, scuppers that come from the bridges, where's this water going? Can we do this with it? Well, no, it'll back up. Can we attach things to these pylons or whatever you call the bridge supports? Can we, put a belt around them? Well, no, that could compromise the integrity of the concrete or whatever. And so there was a ton of this stuff that I was kind of the middleman for. And I'm not an engineer. I learned a lot about bridges.
Bet you did.
But it was just a lot of passing info back and forth and making sure that everyone was replying and giving the input that was required. And it's fun.
And we also knew that eventually we needed to gain the approval of FHWA. So they're very, very interested in how we're handling interstate. So putting that package together, making sure that it was something our own main office was comfortable with. How do we set it up? What's the operating plan? How will it be managed? Who's the permittee? Is there money involved?
And obviously this was always, phase one, right? This was a start, ideally, and it looks like we're marching towards phase two, which is going to be kind of an expansion of that. So, for both of you, is obviously, even though some of it's not going to be underneath the bridge, some of it's going to be kind of on other properties, but you're right back in it now, dealing with these things, and you can see renderings of what it might look like. But so basically you're back doing this again.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at new drawings of concepts, and it's very interesting.
And it was all part of their master plan. So we knew this second phase would come about if it was successful. We didn't know if it would be successful or not. It's been wildly successful, very, very popular. So we're so, it feels very good to have been a part of something that's so nice for the city.
I understand that there are skaters out there right now. We are in the midst of winter. This is a well-loved and well-used space. Would you agree with that assessment? Because that's what we've been hearing.
It's been hugely successful, and it is well-loved, and it fits in. It's a great location. It's got everything that the skaters and BMX and all those?
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to go down there with my deck yet. I actually
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask if you've used it.
I still have one. I have not, but I went down there one day and I was just kind of standing in the middle and I felt like I was in the nucleus of an atom. It was just like people just flying everywhere. I couldn't understand how they were not crashing into each other, but very busy and lots of stuff going on.
And phase 2 is going to have a performance area. I mean, it's going to kick it up a bit.
It is. It's going to be more skating space, and I think some of that, I think they said, was going to be geared to some of the younger kids too, to give them some area. There's going to be event space. They're going to build bathrooms, permanent bathrooms, but that, even the addition of the bathrooms ties in the Genesee River Trail runs through there, right through the park. And that's all part of the area that's being revitalized. So having bathrooms, for people that are trying to use that area, that's going to be huge. That's beyond just the skate park. And then just seeing the skate. I think a lot of people, as they're walking by the trail, see the kids skating and stop and watch them. So it's been hugely successful.
So this is just one more gem to lay down so that people can have that connectivity to the riverfront. And if they do enjoy rollerblading or skateboarding, they can utilize this park. And maybe in the very near future, that will be expanded to that performance space, and it will all just sort of come together even more.
And that's, I think, one of the things that Jeremy and I and our group take some pleasure in, is it's something that's very nice for the city.
Well, and I think that's important because, I mean, you guys aren't just, DOT and workers. You guys live in Rochester.
Yes.
You live in that area. Obviously, Jeremy, for you as a skater, you mentioned I'd love to have had this, when you were younger. Now there are, kids growing up in that area who do have this. I mean, this is, we talk about, revitalizing the downtown, that's nice, but this is not, just hypothetical. This is where you guys work and live, and that's, that's important.
And it's important to us to see the city be successful because, it defines the area. And you need a successful downtown and things for people to do. And we're both parents, and we know that to have something that's nice for your kids and youth to go to instead of being out and about where there's lots of ways to get into trouble. They're down here doing something in a safe, controlled environment.
Yeah, when I was skating as a kid, we were basically being pushed off. Go somewhere else, kids.
Yeah, you were constantly getting kicked out. You'd be in a park or a gas station parking lot.
Just even to have a dedicated area there, much less those fantastic features, is amazing.
Well, we had a chance to talk with the Director of Programs and Park Stewardship with the City of Rochester, Sarah Scott. Let's hear what she had to say and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, there would be no skate park without the DOT and the city, without the DOT being willing to even entertain this idea. And other cities have reached out to Rochester, to kind of figure out how did this partnership work? How did what were the conversations like? And it's an ongoing conversation.
That's very nice to hear because that's important. We can't be successful if we're not having good partnerships with the locals, with the community, with groups. We all have to work together, and that's very nice about this because it wasn't just DOT in the city; it was also the community, the Friends of the Skate Park. Had a big role in this.
Yeah, we also spoke with Aaron Costa. He's with the Friends of Roc City Skatepark. He longtime advocated for this skate park. He's also the owner of Crudco Skate Shop in Rochester. Jeremy, you know these guys. Let's get a listen to what he said about this partnership and what it's brought to the community in Rochester.
It was amazing, and it was such a eye-opening situation, and you see all these people, coming together to get it built. And you finally saw the whole community, whether, city officials, skateboarders, all popping up in one area to make it happen and to celebrate it. It was awesome. It was really awesome.
Jeremy, hearing that and being a skater yourself, what are your thoughts hearing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just win-win for everybody on so many different levels. And these guys are so passionate. I'm so happy for them that they finally got this because it has been a long road for them.
Do you feel that it's really restored a sense of vitality in the community, especially along that stretch that really didn't have much going for it for a long time?
Absolutely. Again, just a win-win for everybody, for even just people, passing through. It just looks spectacular. You see pictures of it lit up at night, and it looks like a city that's alive.
Well, before we go, we'd like to ask you to share a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, we always want to get to know our DOT family a little bit better. So Tom, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and your journey to where you are now.
Well, I started my state career with Department of Health back in the 80s. Working, I was an internal auditor at Helen Hayes Hospital in West Haverstraw. And that was, I'm from the country, so being downstate, that was hard. So in 1992, I received a notice that there were positions available in our Region 7 Watertown office for right-of-way agents, and that's what it calls. And in reading the description, I said, this sounds great. This sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like something I would enjoy doing. And Watertown was a bigger city than I was in, but, we said, why not?
But the weather's great.
Oh, yeah. The weather's wonderful.
Makes up for it.
Well, we
weather.
moved from Old Forge up in the Adirondacks to Watertown, so it was actually an improvement in the weather.
It was better.
So, yeah, I've grown up in snow country. So, so that's where I started my career, and I spent my first 6 years with DOT in Watertown. It was a great office. I loved it. I worked as an acquisition negotiator. I worked as an appraiser. And then a promotional opportunity became available in Rochester as the property manager, the role that Jeremy has now. So I came up to Rochester in like 99, and my family followed us up a year later. I was doing the commute. I was commuting between Watertown and Rochester.
Oh, boy.
It's not my longest commute, but it was one of them. So we enjoyed it. I mean, I've got 2 daughters and my wife, and Rochester is a great area. We all thrived here in Rochester. My kids went to school in the area, college, and they've now both settled here. So it's wonderful. Rochester's been good to us. I did a short stint from 2014 into the end of 2017, 2 years, 7 months, 13 days.
But who's counting?
Yeah.
When you're driving 88 miles each way, you're counting. And that's what I was doing. I was commuting 88 miles each way every day to go down for, it was the REO down in the Region 6, Hornell. And then towards the end of 2017, an opportunity came back up for the REO position in Rochester, which I was crossing my fingers I would compete well for, and I got that position, and that's where I probably stay through the end of my career whenever that comes. So it's been great. It's been a great journey. State service means a lot to me. I take a lot of pride in it. We do good things as state workers.
And Jeremy, tell us about yourself.
So, we all have like different degrees. Most of us had to get a 4-year degree. Mine happens to be in communications. I actually went to Fredonia. I got a communications degree. Started working in radio, actually. And I got out of that because I wasn't really making too much money. So
that's a thing. That's a real thing. Yeah. We can commiserate.
Yeah.
Had a lot of random. I worked in banking and the cellular industry for a while before I finally got a Canvas letter for this test, and I took it. And it took a while to get an interview, but I finally got one. And I actually started out in Hornell. I was down there for like 2 months before I got transferred to Rochester. Which I was living in Irondequoit, so I was very happy about that. I didn't have to do the 1.5 hour commute that Tom did. But when so you get into the traineeship, and you learn all these different aspects. Appraisal. I was in appraisal for a long time. I was in there appraisal for like 7 years, and then I started feeling like, I want to do something different. So I crept into the other areas a little bit and got my feet wet a little bit more, and then that allowed me to get promoted, or helped me be more qualified for the position that I'm in now. And I love it. Property management is it's you never know what you're going to get in a certain day. I walk in and maybe somebody's encroaching or doing something somewhere that they shouldn't be, and I have to send them a letter. And so it's very interesting, and I'm very happy to be with the DOT.
Well, speaking of loves outside of work, you are a musician.
Yep.
And you play guitar, right?
Yeah, that was my first love.
That was your first love. And bagpipes, you actually play every year during the ceremony at the memorial for fallen highway workers at the state fair.
Yeah, that's correct. It's a big honor to be able to do that.
That's wonderful that you do that.
And you have a band also.
I do. It's a rock band,
what's your band's name?
Sort of alt country. It's called Growl Bear.
I love that
name. Yeah.
And if people were to say look up Growl Bear, they would maybe find your music?
They would find it in wherever music is found these days.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Not saying people will, but I'm just saying if they want
Yeah,
to.
if they want
It's
to.
out there. It is out there. Guitar, I think a lot of people play guitar. I play guitar. I use that term
Nice.
really loosely.
But not a lot of bagpipes.
I don't play bagpipes. No, that's something I don't play. I don't think many people do. So it's unique, and I think we'd love to hear it. I think we would love to hear you play the bagpipes on the DOT POD. Would you be willing to play us out?
I think I can do that.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. So we'll let you get that set up as we wrap things up. But first, thank you both for making the trek down here and for talking to us about this and for giving us a little bit more information just about what it is that your department does and the impact that they have. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and the chance to have this kind of opportunity with such a creative project. And thanks for sharing with us.
Yeah, and can't wait to see what comes of phase 2 as well. We'll have to do an update once that gets underway. Once phase 2 gets underway. But again, thank you both for coming on out and chatting with us. We really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
us.
Yeah,
we,
thank you.
We really enjoyed it, and we like the opportunity to put a positive light on what we do.
Absolutely. And Anya, thank you so much. This was lots of fun.
Oh, I love this one. You're talking about a space that's being utilized for good in a community, and that's always a great story.
Can't beat it. Thanks so much for everyone for tuning in to this episode of the DOT POD. We certainly appreciate that. Appreciate all the listens and the downloads and the likes and the comments. Where you can find any of your podcasts, you can certainly find us as well. And for passing it along to your friends as well as our listenership continues to grow, we certainly appreciate that. You can also reach out to us directly, podcast@dot.ny.gov. That'll get right to us. So until next time, we'll see you right back here in the DOT POD.